everyone, and welcome to our app interaction session today, where we want to have a look at the app formalization. And there was one app formalization session yesterday. Some of you may have attended that session, but if not, that's not an issue. We will do some sorting exercise of how we would build our own folio from an app interaction perspective. So we will do that in a few minutes. We would like to start with some recap from the session that happened on Tuesday. So yesterday, the application formalization did the same exercise, and we have Kristen who will briefly recap what has happened there and maybe give some overview over the task of the group. Kristen, are you ready to do that?
I am ready. I am going to be sharing my screen, and I'm actually going to show you a slideshow that Jen Colt and Todd Olson worked on. So I don't know who here was able to go to the application formalization tri-council working group. If anybody raises hands.
Yes, we have Laura and Laura who've been there, so 2 in this room.
So a small group. Okay, anybody online able to do that yesterday? Kimberly? Okay, so we have a couple people, but we have mostly a new group, and here's Jen too. So let me just show this. Okay, so these are the slides. So we spent a lot of time doing this activity. It was actually pretty fun. This is just a PDF, so I'm afraid I don't quite have like a presenter view, but it should be pretty big. So I'm going to skip over that part of it and just get to our activities. So, and then a brief Eureka recap. So perhaps you were at some earlier sessions today that got very technical about Eureka, that were dealing with the authorization and with the manager services. So Eureka covers those things. It's a set of architectural changes in Folio that is first going live with the Library of Congress. And as I mentioned, it includes this authentication, authorization, and new routing. So it will effectively replace OCopy. Application formalization is a part of Eureka, and it's a new concept that's being introduced by Eureka that allows formal bundling of modules into applications. And it gives us an opportunity to think about disentangling current dependencies to allow for more flexibility. Right now, Vince and Craig have been working on this, and the initial applications that have been formalized in Eureka are kind of big bundles of things. And so when we were working on our exercise within the Tri-Council, we started thinking about what would be our desirable bundles, our desirable applications, versus maybe where we're at right now. So we've had many conversations also in the Tri-Council about terminology. So just a couple of issues with the terminology. So bear with it being maybe a little squishier than what would be ideal. But when we talk about an app, we're usually talking about that menu bar across Folio that shows you like, hey, check in, check out, orders, etc. And there's usually some sort of a front end module and a back end module that make up that app. In Eureka, the term application is a bundle of modules again, probably with a database that provide functionality and are related and defined via an application descriptor. So it's that application descriptor that is very specific to Eureka. So, well, terminology is a little squishy. Hopefully we can deal with it here. So as I mentioned, there was an overview of the whole platform on Tuesday. This is from the slides from yesterday, so hence this session, which is not this session. We are now over here in app interaction. And then we got some technical details on authorization and application manager. And there is more that's going on tomorrow too, if you're interested in following along. So these are some links, and these slides are linked to not in our schedule, but they're under the Tri-Council Application Formalization Working Group schedule. So when we were having some conversations within App Interaction and within the Tri-Council, we started thinking about how we would create these applications and what it might mean for App Interaction, which is often thinking about dependencies and connections between apps. So Jen came up with an activity to try to pull things together, and I will, let me see if I can grab that too. So I can share the link in the chat, but I realize that's maybe not the most effective way for sharing the link in the room. So let me think about, we had like, I think a slide that showed it, didn't we, Jen?
It should be on the very last slide.
Sorry, if we're going to do it collectively, we don't need everyone in the room to get the link right now.
That's true. I mean, I could open that and we could then build our own platform.
Yeah, or if you want me to share my screen, I have it open.
Yeah.
Okay, that is a good idea. So I'm going to share again. So this first question is just, this is feedback that we are gathering. So this first question I'll be able to say, we're doing it during the app interaction session. So here's the basic instructions. I don't know how big that looks. Is it tiny?
I think it's okay, or is it not okay? Can you make it a bit okay?
I can.
Yes.
So yeah, so this is a list of our ideas for applications over here on the left, and it goes on for a little while. And from here, as part of the exercise, we can drag the applications to business areas that are located over here on the right. And then think about what collection of applications would create like the folio and sort of this more modern way of thinking about the development. And we can create new business areas too. So these are suggested business areas to just get people thinking, but if we don't want to use one of them, we don't have to. Or if we are like, you know what, we don't think this is the right app, we also don't have to use that app. Now, some of the challenges are the only person who can create new apps is Jen, because it's under her account. So, but the business areas, like anybody could create those. And these are just ways of thinking about functionality, and they don't have a formal definition. So I'm going to take, and I'm just going to show you an example here. So let's say invoicing, okay? So invoicing, I can drag it right in here as part of acquisitions. Or if I'd rather, you know, I could say, well, you know what, I think invoicing is really got to be its own thing. I could create it to be, you know, its own thing here. And if we decide we don't like that, we can also trash it, and I think it just reappears over here, but yep, at the bottom. So it doesn't actually trash the app, it just trashes the grouping. All right. Anything else that you think I should add about this, Jen?
I don't think so. I hope I'm not like causing feedback or anything.
No.
The only other thing we wanted to point out was that for the applications on the left, if any of them you wish they were broken down smaller, if that's something you can like talk about as you're working on it or remember and tell us later. Because we're kind of interested in like exactly how some of the things that are all smushed together right now should be broken apart. And this was just kind of a first guess at that.
What we now will do or plan to do is really as a group here, we have some folks from App Interaction here, but some guests as well, build a platform and group the apps as it makes sense to us. And in addition, find like things, so-called pain points where we think it doesn't work there, or here we need something like a separate app or some different grouping, or maybe the whole model has some pain points. So does anyone have any questions? Like, did everyone understand what we're now going to do? Here are some people nodding. Don't see any questions.
And I will be your vessel to move
That's
things
good.
around.
Thanks, Kristen. Right. Cool. Okay, why don't we get started then? Do we first want to start with the areas that are listed there? Or do we want to work us through the list of things that are on the left-hand side? Yeah, left-hand side is here feedback in the room. So then, is that okay for everyone? No objections?
Can I clarify, each app on the left can only go in one box. We cannot put requests, for instance, in two different boxes.
Yes.
Yeah, so
We could, right, you can create a new box, but we can't put the same thing in multiple boxes.
yeah, and one thing that we also, I think Laura, you brought this up earlier about inventory. So we have, I think we have inventory, but we also have holdings and items.
We also have instances, holdings, and items.
Yeah.
I think.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of a long list, admittedly. So.
Oh, and there's workflows module, and then there's also workflows.
Yeah, and we think that was just a mistake, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But those two are the same thing.
Okay. Yeah, Charlotte, and then Felix. We have some raised hands.
Okay. What worries me a little bit by doing one solution, then we are kind of imagining that we have one size fits all. And we already know that US libraries, the way you have your workflow set up is very different from German libraries and other libraries. So it's a complicated exercise if we are trying to do one solution fits all.
Can I say, I was imagining that we wouldn't necessarily come up with a solution we agreed on, but we would find out what questions we had and what concerns we had from the app interaction perspective by talking through this and probably disagreeing about everything. We should also go in, if you want, go in and do it as an individual. I did it in the workshop yesterday, and I'm going to go back because I've been thinking about it and want to do it all different.
Is that directly to what was just mentioned, or is that something new, Maura? Because
I was going to suggest that if we have discussion points, there's a good chance we're going to have similar ones related to things that work across apps or something. And so we might have as extra sort of assignment boxes, places where we have specific kinds of questions, so that we can say, this would work for an American library, but not for a European library, or, this is this would be a privacy concern, or we have some kind of, there's an issue here that we would find pretty hard to solve in a session.
Yeah, that's good. And we have a notes page for the app interaction session that I cannot open now. I will then listen to the recording.
I'll try to take notes.
Okay, that's good. So that we definitely collect other questions and pain points. And then Felix raised his hand first. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how this can work if we can't put the same app into multiple of those boxes. So that I imagine the apps being like a Lego block, and then we put it into different boxes. Can we add a free text field, or like the first one, location? I mean, we need location for cataloging, we need it for acquisition, for circulation, and potentially for ERM. So.
But maybe then locations is its own box. So you have like the headings, locations, and put the app into that because it's something that is used by everyone. I don't know, Jen or Kristen, is that correct? Or we had the question in the room, I'm not sure whether you heard it, if locations, for instance, are needed by cataloging, by ERM, and so on and so forth. So what do we do with those that need to go into multiple areas?
Yeah, I think we could put them in their own box. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, that's what I did. When I did this myself, I created a box that was like called utilities or something like that. And dragged them in there.
Okay.
And we could add that as in our notes too. Or if we think like locations, I mean, that one, like if we felt like locations doesn't work as an app, we could also note that.
Okay. So we have 3 raised hands here before we start. I think you were first.
Yes, you have not explained what would make us put the boxes on the left together or separate. What would it change in practice? As a portfolio developer, what I'm thinking is one consequence is potentially that the current apps, if they were together, they could be more tightly integrated and be able to do more cross database requests, which could seriously optimize them. But that's backend view is the way apps are arranged. Is it going to change the UI in any way? I mean, what other factors can we use to decide how to organize things?
I think, and I will let Kristen and maybe Jen speak in a minute. I think what I understood is that each institution may have different apps that they need. And so they then group things together because, for instance, e-holdings is used by maybe EPSO customers, whereas Visa G customers in Germany would use the local knowledge base. So you can build your own system if you are an institution. And I don't know how the front end will look like and whether that will change anything. I'm not sure whether Jen or Kristen can something.
Saying that different institutions could organize apps differently with different.
You would buy then a different platform because you don't need everything. Not all of us need all apps. And what I understand is that you then like purchase this specific, like if you are only using ERM or if you're only using cataloging, then you can build your own platform and just ignore the rest.
Yeah, but then that prevents tighter integrations between apps if they can be divided.
Yeah, but if you don't need that, then you don't use that. And if others do need it, then they can group everything together. So you can then have everything or only few apps. But maybe, I don't know, the app formalization group, Kristen or Jen, do you have any more feedback on that? What's the planning there?
I mean, I see that as an ideal scenario. I think this is not like going to be out in the next release with some of the Eureka changes. I think are going to be focused on that so much, but there are a number of apps that are in here that are really integrations with external systems. If you use that external system, that app is critical for you, right? But if you don't use that external system, it might not be something that you want.
And how that looks in the end, I'm not sure whether we are the right group to discuss that. So we are in the end doing this sorting exercise that was like prepared by the app formalization group. But what it will look like in the end, I'm not sure whether the group itself knows that. And I don't think that we can answer that question, but we can definitely note it as one thing that we need to clarify, and that's important. And maybe your worries about that.
Okay.
Yep, thank you. Sorry. There were other raised hands in the room. Joe, you don't have anything? Okay. Do we want to start? Maybe then things become clearer or even less clear. I don't know. So what I've already heard, Kristen, is that locations needs to be its own box. Or do we want to call it utilities then, as Jen suggested, or like mandatory? Or is it really locations as an own application? So we could either group some apps or have it on its own. And there is one raised hand, and then Maura, you.
Could we maybe call it something like common dependencies, because there are going to be other application groupings that are going to need locations, but yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make
I
sense?
like common dependencies.
Yeah, did you hear that? Common dependencies? And Maura?
I was actually gonna say that when I did this yesterday, I said, you know, that this was a cross app,
Yeah, yeah.
and so common dependencies makes a lot of sense.
But then you're already like a pro, an expert in doing this. That's good. Have you here? Common dependencies what was suggested. Thank you. Serials management would be next on our list. I have a clear opinion, but
I feel like that should just be in serials.
okay.
Well, then the serials management is acquisitions, but it's also sometimes metadata management and.
It's a can of worms.
It's a can of worms.
I'm not disagreeing.
Yes, thank you. And now I have an issue. What's Bursa? Does anyone know?
I think it's Spanish for all.
Okay, if it's Spanish,
Isn't that the billing? It's to bill for lost books.
Yes.
Yeah, Bursar would be, I actually don't know precisely what the Bursar app does. But it would be, I know it's acquisitions related.
No, it's patron related. It's
patron related?
It's to output patron fines and fees to a campus bursar system. So it's
okay.
But so it's an integration and it's related to users and it's related to financial things.
It's case for the financial things, not library.
It's not finance budget things, but it's still a money.
User circulation.
but is that then its own thing again? Or multiple dependencies, or is that clear circulation or patrons, users?
Does everyone who uses circulation want this? Isn't that the question?
But show of hands, how many institutions would have a use for it, and how many would?
I assume we would, but I can't say for certain.
It's handled by the patron interface during the view of files.
Yeah.
Perfectly interface.
So some institutions would use that or need that, others wouldn't. What does that now mean for our sorting here? Do we want to create a separate like text for not used by everyone and then group things? What does make sense? Because we want to reflect like everyone, Maura?
It sounds like Bursar would go into a box that would say something like fit for university libraries.
Okay.
I was going to say like user integrations, but that works too.
Oh, yeah.
User integrations is the last proposal. Then we have users as next item that's needed everywhere. We are just thinking whether that's common dependencies as locations or.
Everything needs a user.
Yeah,
Everything
I
needs
can't
it.
imagine somebody needing a library management system without users.
Right, especially since it's stacked.
It's, right, so you don't have users, you can't assign them.
I think common dependencies is what we're agreeing on, right?
Yes.
So let's use the non-patrons. It's both.
It's both.
I guess if you use only acquisition apps, you wouldn't need users.
It's
What you need to
But
be
this
smart.
using,
Ah,
the
yes,
others
right.
have, they have to.
Okay, yeah,
Set
okay.
up
You should need users,
yeah.
never mind.
Yeah.
So we're getting our plan to move the world is still intact.
requests. What about requests?
Is that holds or is that? Yes. Holds,
Or classes,
no, it's-
class requests.
I think it's,
User integration.
Yeah, it's, of course, a user can say, I want this. Either it's not fully processed yet, or it needs to be pulled off the shelf, or it's in circulation. But it's placing a request that somebody can check it out, not.
So would that make it a circulation?
and Charlotte has?
Yeah, I think it belongs more on the circulation than on users.
Yeah,
But
right, it's not a user integration.
So circulation?
What about when you order it because somebody's requested it? It's, the process is gonna start in orders. So at least I'm not saying it needs to be in orders, I'm just saying that's different, but orders need to go into circulation.
Yeah.
So the requests app in its current form is for patrons to place a hold or a page on an existing
Yeah, okay.
item.
Though it is the case sometimes that somebody has requested we purchase something, and when it's ordered, we then place a request on it for that patron.
So,
But that's just, those are two different workflows.
yes, yeah.
Those are two, yeah.
then the thing is also that the request app is typically having interaction with the OPEC. Because if a patron is searching for item that is not available,
Yeah.
then
Yes.
it's generating a request in the system.
So that,
I mean, it's an integrated system, and it's like everything works with everything else in a sense, so I think you're gonna make some realistic decisions of, because otherwise you've just got the list on the left and that would be fine. So the point of putting them into some kind of category, but as we said, everything is connected to everything else.
Well, it's not.
Well,
It's a disintegrated system. Semi-integrated system.
We have a hand online too, just,
sorry.
Oh, sorry, that was, I was supposed to.
I was
Kimberly?
I was just gonna point out the same things that are being said in the room, which is sometimes when our acquisitions group gets a request for materials and they place the order, a request has to go on it immediately before it even enters circulation. So I don't know what you want to do with that information, but it definitely could cross into both.
Stand by for our next session, 4:30 about acquisitions automation. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Yeah, but where do we go with this now? Requests, Maura, sorry.
I was wondering if, requests basically involve circulation. It requires, patron, and it needs the discovery layer. Should we sort of group those together? Because we might have more than one element in a box like this.
If I can riff on that for just one moment. When I used to work with public library ILSs, which this is not a public library ILS, but there was a concept of patron experience. And it seems to me that when you're grouping things like requests and OPAC and circulation, it all falls under the umbrella of patron experience, because that's what it's really all about. Because patrons, and that would also include patron self-service.
Yeah.
So maybe we reframe circulation, we rename circulation as patron experience. Just something to think about.
Okay. Is that agreement? I mean, I don't know whether you have that, Kristen. We wanted to.
I think I got it.
Okay.
I would suggest let's try this and move along, and then we can feel like we don't like it later on too.
I can tell you that we will definitely not finish this, but let's look at data export.
When I did this yesterday, I created a section that was called something like data management.
So data management.
Because I was thinking of the users who are going to use certain tools.
Wondering, is user integrations and user experience not the same tool?
User integrations is talking to an outside system. That's what I understand an integration is.
Yes, but talking to an outside system would be patrons. What patron is dedicated to external systems because it has its corresponding edge patron. And it's for client services, external systems. And this, I don't know it really much, but this Pushkar and this requests, it sounds for me like something with own pages in the full UI. And patron is just data interface for external systems.
So if I could follow on that, so Bursar theoretically what would happen is patron has a lost material or long overdue. They need to block graduation. They also need to block other activities. So let's say they're overdue, they can't do anything. We're going to hold on, but that would refer back to a block. So that could actually go under patron experience, and we could throw all user integrations using that logic.
Charlotte?
But request has also staff implications. But so there will be, and for instance, right now we are talking about that the request app is to be enhanced to support the reading room circulation functionality. And here staff needs to also approve and do some clearing on requests. So it's not just patron based.
But it's forward facing. Which would make it, I mean, I think in terms of when I think about libraries, I think front of house versus back of house. And that, the access services are front of house. They're dealing with the general public. They do most of the public services, and then back of house are all of the technical services people who don't have to deal with the public unless they really, really want to.
Two titles, front house, back house. We put patron stuff in front house, everything else back house.
Yeah, what do we do? Do we keep it like that at the moment and make a question mark? I don't know whether you want to.
I think we keep it like that at the moment and move along, and then
the next ones are easier, I think. The next two ones, or the next one. I don't know. Licenses.
I put that under e-resources management.
Yeah, right.
Yes, Kristen, I think there is no objection here. Thumbs up.
Yeah, I mean, I will admit we're putting all sorts of stuff in licenses because it's really useful for tracking things that maybe are related to the library, but I still think it makes sense under e-resources. That's where it has its connection.
Okay, cool. Dashboards.
I would like to propose that we make a category called workflows and we put dashboards there.
Yeah, sounds good. Agreement in the room. Holdings. Cataloging. Yeah.
I will admit, I did not put anything in cataloging.
Okay.
But that's because I have a philosophical objection to cataloging in folio. So I don't want to call anything catalog, but that is my personal.
But then
preference.
we would rename that maybe this, I mean, we don't need to keep that.
No, it's fine.
I did the same thing, Laura. I created a category called inventory and I put it in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also had linked data and mark.
Yeah, I put in inventory and linked data. I didn't even put mark in.
So then
rename catalog.
Yeah.
No, we just understand that cataloging stands for something that we do.
Something else.
Okay.
And catalogers work with holdings, so, though serials people also work with holdings.
I think,
Bibliographic metadata.
Well, I think this is where it's interesting, right? That you could decide, like the inventory model is that we have the bibliographic metadata and the holdings and the items like co-located, but as a tree, but you might not necessarily want to do that because what if the bibliographic description is for something that isn't like or your holdings for something that isn't in your catalog, or they are definitely separated as a kind of logical thing. Like your description of a work is not the same as stating, and the work of describing something is separate to like we're managing stock, we're moving stuff around, these are the holdings we have, these are the holdings we don't have. I don't know. So I think that holdings is not metadata. It's something else.
I agree.
It is definitely inventory. I'm okay with inventory for it, but the question then is where does the mark or link data or stuff go? Of course.
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
It's like a separate thing that you would add on if you were using mark in your inventory.
Yeah.
Right.
because you've got stuff and then you've got descriptions of stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
And holdings is where is the stuff?
Yeah.
So would there be inventory and then like the metadata management that goes with it?
Exactly.
Okay.
Or you dump it all under acquisition from the Los
I mean, I guess that. So I'm so sorry that I missed this. That I ended up in another meeting that I couldn't be. But are we like these are all existing folio modules, right? So we're trying to rearrange those as they exist right now.
Yeah, but you can invent new ones as well, or split them, or yeah.
So what's the holdings module like?
There isn't a holdings module right now, so that is
So that's
that
being
new.
limited.
Yeah.
That comes from the complaints that mod inventory has too much stuff in it.
Okay.
Charlotte?
But too much stuff in inventory, is that, mark authorities, or and SIS marks record storage, or is it the data model we are changing in inventory?
I think we were trying to decompose inventory into apps that people felt more like represented what they would be able to need and then not need.
Okay, we have, I think, 11 minutes left. Didn't we?
Yeah.
So the other session, did you manage to go through that exercise?
Well, we did it individually.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't have a conversation about every sample here.
Does it take a whole other hour at least?
But I think you would, yeah, at least definitely. So Gobi, let's look at Gobi. Is that something?
Acquisitions.
But
acquisitions, integrations, maybe?
Acquisition is the second in the upper row.
Well, I like acquisitions integrations because not everyone will use Go.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Expo knowledge base? Is that then ERM
Your integrations.
integrations?
You're.
Yes.
Circulation or patron experience, but one.
Patron negative experience.
They're getting the whole experience.
Yeah.
So experience is what we put it in?
Yeah.
EDI data import?
But what are the libraries that don't have any keys? But even in Germany, there is a thing that more and more libraries are getting rid of charging people.
So then it needs.
I assume they would have to request, but they don't want to.
Then fees needs to go extra, yes. We just say that not everyone has this fees module or fees app in Germany.
Is it a problem if you have entry in your group and you don't use it?
I think that's what we are doing here. That's the task, that we get rid of everything that we don't need. And that's why I would propose that we put it somewhere else in a separate box then, in, I don't know.
Sorry, I didn't hear all of the comments. So put EDI data import where?
No, we're still at
fees.
Yeah.
But not want to charge fees.
Oh, fees.
Maybe that can be in user integrations.
Yeah, user integrations or circulation integrations, I don't know.
But then that means if you have a person, if you want fees, you have to have a person, right?
Well, I would say that we put if it's an integration, it's understood that it's not going to be all of the integrations, it's going to be some of the integrations.
Pick it up.
Yes, okay, that helps, yes.
Owen is not happy.
Well, just because like fees isn't an integration, is it? I mean.
Yeah, so we need another name. It's not.
You want another name for this?
Yeah, we need another name, I think. User, I don't know.
User experts.
User, sorry, Maura?
User experts.
User extras, did you say, Maura?
Yes, little extra things for the users. Here's an extra, it's a.
Could that be something like, I don't know, patron charges also, because that's both related to cost?
That's true, they are related. You need to have fees in order to reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry for being a bit devil's advocate, but is anyone else than me aware that we have the most of the groups just with one entry, and at the moment the second entry comes in, we have the longest count. So perhaps it might be perhaps a better way just to find a group where it's clear that several modules come together. So like external connection, which is this ORE PMH, which is set 3950, and what's veteran and ARPAC. They are normally not for using in the folio UI, they are for external systems.
So what was the box name? What did you say?
External interfaces.
External interfaces would be a new.
And what are we putting in external interfaces?
Kaya Soft is maybe also.
So
3950 in range also, right?
So if we were to do that, we would put Gobi there. We would put KayaSoft. We would put InReach. These are not in any particular order. Somewhere in here we got thematic.
RTAG, SIP2.
SIP2, where is that?
our tab, which is below inventory.
Yes.
Export.
No.
EBSCOnet is in a proposal in chat.
Yeah,
OAI, harvester.
Yes. And
It's above, a bit above OAI PMH harvester.
is that an external integration? Or is that just a data management because you're exporting your data in OAI PMH?
But you're exporting this to an external system, and I don't think you have much to configure there.
So you're gonna need to go back and look at the logs of all those external interfaces, and it's gonna be different people looking at the different logs, because those don't exist in a vacuum. So somebody working with Gobi is probably not going to be working with Image, for instance.
Yeah.
Is that a problem?
I mean, I think one way that we could try to think about this is like, this is your grab bag of connections that you might or might not want, right? No library might want all of these, but some libraries might want some of these, right? Maybe you don't want any of them. But you wouldn't necessarily, they don't make sense as like a bundle of things that you would work with together.
So I think the goal to have those separated out then, because we want to have these as distinct things that institutions can choose to implement. So maybe it does make sense to separate. Well, I know it's so many categories, but like if we are trying to limit the number of things that people don't want that they have to add on, shouldn't we be putting these all in separate boxes? Because there aren't a lot of heavy dependencies between them, and people don't want to have all of them.
Yeah. So did you hear that, Kristen?
So, I mean,
Yesterday was very few things, like check in and check out to me.
Yeah.
You can't have one without the other. But many.
so you think instead we should have each one of these would be their own?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't need to do that right now. We can just understand.
And we have, I think we have only 3 minutes left. Maybe
Yeah,
we can
so-
already come to some kind of like, how do we feel with this exercise? Does it make
DDI
sense
data
or not?
import, is that something that would be on its own as an external interface, or is that something we would put in acquisitions?
I would not put it in acquisitions. I think
I would put it, I mean, it's an acquisitions integration, but it's got a lot of, yeah.
But like, I understand that not every library might use DDI, and the same with Gobi, and the same, let's say, with SIP2. But I have to admit, if I was doing this exercise myself, I would include SIP2 with circulation, because like, just doesn't make sense anywhere else. It's like,
Right.
you get folio circulation, you get SIP2, you don't have to use it. It's like, you don't have to do circulation, that's fine. But if you're getting the circulation bundle, then like them saying with or without SIP2 and like this kind of starts to make me question like how granular would be like back to was saying like just why not just have everything in its own category and then we're no better off when we ask something. And the same with Gobi because
sorry, Maura and then Charlotte.
Okay, I was wondering if sort of maybe as a next step, I mean, we're processing, maybe we can do this exercise and, sort of for our own sort of like how we envision it for our own institutions. And we can like have, we can have the big four, we can have experts, and we can also include a box that says, we don't use it.
Yeah.
And then we can take all the stuff that maybe could be available for others, but is not something that, your particular institution uses, your library doesn't use it, just put it in that box. And then we can see how many things we all have in common. And for the things that we, where we differ, we can see how much is in common across those. So
some kind of homework until we meet next.
I was saying, yeah.
Charlotte?
So I'm looking at the topic called tax, because that's one of those helper components. And it is used or planned to be used in all of our UI interfaces.
Yeah.
So that would be yeah. Okay.
So tax is common dependencies. We have one more.
Right. So
Sorry, what is, Charlotte? I didn't quite catch all of what you were thinking.
That tax is under common dependencies because tax is used like by most of the apps or all of them.
Oh, tags, okay.
Apps, yes.
Yeah.
And
where is it?
we're at time, definitely.
Yeah. You know, one thing that maybe when we talk about this a little bit more too, we could think about like, is there something that we feel like every library and folio would use, like when we work on this? Is there something that we also see commonalities, like we've talked about in Germany? It seems like this set of apps is where people are starting to coalesce. In the US at academic institutions is this set of apps. In the US at like public libraries, it seems to be more here. You know, there might be some ways then we could think about like, would application formalization help make folio more flexible for different types of libraries?
Sounds good to me.
I don't know. It was a tough exercise.
It was a tough exercise. Thank you all so much. I mean, it was a bit of fun as well, but it was tough as well. And I think we as App Interactions Sec will continue to talk about our experience today. And I'm always happy to hear others' input. So please feel free to let us know. Thank you all. And yeah, wish you a great conference.